So we wanted to start off our little masterclass playing for you all a little bit. Is that all right if we play a little bit? Cool. So we're going to play. So we're actually jazz musicians, like almost exclusively. But we're going to play a tune called Lester Leaps In. We hope you enjoy it. I actually want to ask Alton real quick, what exactly is the roast? Because that's the topic of our panel.
Okay, so I guess the roast to me, well, first off, how many of you look at memes? I have a phone full of memes. Okay, so all of us look at memes, right? And we all like looking at roasting memes, right? Trolling. Okay, so we live in that kind of environment, and so that's cool. But you can also use that to your advantage, So roasting, understanding the roast. So Chris and I were teaching assistants together at Michigan State for our masters, and because of that, we were always looking to feed off of each other. But of course, there's always this is not reflecting upon us, but in general, there's always an ego as a musician because you don't want to be basically told that what you're doing doesn't matter, right? That's a pretty. I think we can all agree that's pretty fearful to be told, right?
I know for me, I was personally always grappling with this sort of dichotomy of I want someone to tell me what to fix all the time because I want to get better. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I don't want them to be too mean. Because if they're too mean, then I'm going to be like sad for a while.
So like understanding the roast for us is basically having an open dialogue with your peers, teachers, mentors, and whomever else that you let into that inner circle, right? So understanding the roast at its, I guess, most fundamental form is being okay with open critique from those people in that circle. And by the way, you choose that circle and you allow those people into that circle. So that's what we're going to be really talking about today, and how to have an open dialogue about getting better and having your peers, along with you helping your peers out throughout your entirety of school, whether it be, once again, undergrad, graduate school, or even in the professional world.
So part of understanding the roast is really understanding why we go to school and how we can get the most out of that investment. Because we all, like, anybody who's in school right now knows you're paying money, your parents are paying money, you either have scholarship or you have student loans to attend an institution to get a degree in music. And so what exactly are you supposed to get out of this investment? So if you check at the top of your sheet, we're going to talk about your education is an investment. Specifically, we noticed that we invested in 4 things. The first thing is the reputation of the institution. So basically, you went to school, blah, blah, blah school, or one of our teachers' favorite thing is Western Mass State, whatever, random school, and they're known for this. So by going to this program, you know that when you get in the field, someone says, oh, you went to that school? Oh, wow, we already know that you can play, or you can write, or you can teach, or you can do any of these other things. You can produce audio. The second thing that you invest in is structure. So personally for me, if I had my druthers, I would be sitting in my room on my new gaming PC that I built this past winter, and I would just be playing GTA 5 with mods all day, every day, 24/7. But when I invested in education, I did not have the option to do that all day. It was like, okay, now if I want to actually use this money right, I got to go to class. If I want to have good lessons, I got to practice. If I want to have good juries, I got to make sure all my material is prepared. And if I want to sound good in ensembles and I want to, start building a reputation as a good musician, I have to practice and make sure that I have everything in order for myself and my instruments are good shape, all that. So
feeding off of that. So how many of us have days where it's like, nope, not touching the horn? It's okay, I have those days too, right? I think all of us do, no matter what level you're at. And see, that's okay to an extent. It's really important that you understand, these, although, we're telling you these idealistic things, it's also important to be a human being. And I think that gets lost while being in school. Together we were TAs, as I mentioned before. And, being a teaching assistant is very invasive at the graduate school level. And it's not just for, the workload. It's more about, how you present yourself in front of your professors, how you present yourself in front of your peers, how you are perceived from everybody else around you, right? So it's almost like a 24/7 hour job, even though you're only saying you do 10 hours a week, right? So it gets really, it can get dark depending, how serious you want to be about this. But what we're just trying to make sure everybody understands here is how to get the most out of being an actual human being while being in school and being a musician. Because being a musician is invasive emotionally, physically, and all other aspects. So, we're not just preaching about ideal aspects of being a student. We're also trying to see what can I do to maybe help myself 10% every single day or 20%, whatever you want to do, right? So once again, it's not a do this and you can't do anything else. We also understand people have days, right? Yeah. Keeping that in mind. So,
and then just continuing on here, the education as an investment, you're investing in resources. So, and we'll talk more about that in depth later. You invest in a school because they have practice rooms, because they have equipment for you to use in case you want to play contrabass trombone on Alpine Symphony. They have all these things that you might need. They have access to euphonium. They have recording services. They have all these things. And we're just talking about today, maybe just probably 90% of this for everyone. There's going to be 90% of the things that you've probably already heard, but there might be just 10% or maybe a couple of things that you'll be like, oh, I didn't think about that. And that's really our goal here, is that we're trying to make sure that the gaps are filled in with our discussion. So, and the last thing that we get, and this is where the roast comes in, this is the community. You're investing in being a part of a community where everybody has, even if it's not the exact same goal, they have an incredibly similar goal with you, and that is to be successful musicians as performers, educators, audio production managers, instrument repairmen, or composers, arrangers.
So let's talk a little bit about what is the structure. So classes. How many of you how many of you are in your upper college? Even oh, okay.
Who here is like a freshman, sophomore? Yeah.
Okay.
Who here is like a master's, DMA?
Cool. Okay.
PhD. Yeah.
Okay. So at some point you will have to encounter an orchestration class, an arranging class, or composition class, as well as piano class. And so where can you find investment in that besides turning in your stuff on time and getting that 4.0 or mandatory 3.0 to maintain your scholarship? Where can you find the investment in classes like arranging and whatnot? So something that we have been doing lately since like being in school and out of school is we become professional copyists, engravers, and whatnot. And actually, Chris does a lot of that. Actually, you were just like doing that like yesterday at the airport. But something that's important is being able to use Finale or Sibelius or MuseScore or NoFlight, whatever you use. And here's why: you will always run into somebody. Man, I have this written down, but I don't have the software. Do you know how to do a copyist or engraving thing? And where do you learn how to do that? Normally in your arranging class or your composition class. So there's an investment right there. And for those of you who have marching band programs, I grew up in Texas, so marching band is a religion. and so many people are always looking for people to engrave and do copyist work. So like, what's engraving?
Engraving is literally someone hands you a written sheet music, and they say, hey, can you just put this and make it look nice on, like, digitalize it. I want it digitalized, That's what I gave a lot. You just take it, you write it out, you make sure it looks clean, and you make sure it has all of the dynamics, markings, notes, articulations, title, composer, arranger. Then you give yourself a little tiny engraving credit at 0.2 font, on the side of the page. But there's really a lot of work to be done there. And we're stressing all this stuff as being part of your education, because when you leave school, life kicks back in. And it may even kick back in when you're in school. Life might be still kicking in. But as soon as you leave the school, then everything just gets compressed. Your time for everything gets compressed. So we're really trying to stress that in your classes, you can make it, killing two birds with one stone. You can take your arranging exercise, instead of handwriting it out on a little piece of notation staff really quickly, maybe take like an extra 2 hours and figure out how to write, this assignment on MuseScore. And MuseScore is free, so you can download it on your computer. Even NoFlight, you don't even need to download anything. Just take a little bit of extra time, because I promise you it will pay dividends. The majority of things that Alton and I use, like we just, he mentioned we just put out a record. A large majority of the stuff that we put on our record is stuff that we made in arranging class. And we practice with our friends in our combo class and in our big band class and all that. So,
And let's talk about a language everybody knows: money. So engraving work. People are always looking for that, whether it be like a march that, the part's all messed up, but if you put it in Finale, it looks good. That's $100. Everybody needs $100 from time to time in school. I know I did.
Right.
And so let's talk about like other classes and like how they relate to you getting a job opportunity while in or out of school. So at some point, those of you who are either performance majors or music ed majors, I know have to do this as well. You have to take a pedagogy course, right? Of some kind of
teaching course.
Right. Or whether it be brass methods or woodwind methods. You have to learn how to help others learn, right? So for us, we had a jazz pedagogy class at Michigan State, and some of the assignments were make a masterclass that's 30 minutes, post it on YouTube, so that way your professor can grade it, right? So you could just like make it the night before, and like, okay, got your check mark, cool, you passed the class, right? Or now you can put that on your website as education materials for other people to look at, right? And then another level deeper, whenever you apply to a job, people normally like to see some kind of education materials that you've made for the public. So I'm an adjunct professor right now. I teach ear training and brass lessons, but both of my degrees are in jazz. Why? Like, first off, the two don't really match up, do they? But in my jazz pedagogy class, I made a syllabi for the very end, it was like our final or something like that. Yep. And I made like a 60-page syllabi full of like materials and all this stuff that I just grabbed from like my Brett Edwards book or my Arbin book, and I put them in there. I put in like a warm-up exercise as well. And now I have a syllabi to present at this interview that I had for my job. And the reason why I had that syllabi ready is because I just didn't do like very least amount of work in order to get my mandatory 3.0 to keep my scholarship.
Right.
I really try to like take it serious because whenever you're in school, although it doesn't seem like it, and Chris already mentioned this, but you have so much more time than whenever you're outside of school. It's amazing how those 8 hours a day at school somehow get taken up whenever you graduate. I don't know how they do, but they just do. Because right now we're almost on a year outside of it, and I think I can say this for both of us. Like normally at 3 p.m. on Mondays, we had like 2 hours of practice time. Now it's like, nah, I'm like busy doing something random every other day. So it's really important that you like take some of these classes a little bit more serious than you would, because the outcome is possibly winning you a job. So that way you can have a steady source of income, which I think every college student would really like at some point, or post-collegiate student. Is that fair?
One of those things I want to talk about before we get to the next one is just, who here has academic classes? Yeah, academic classes, like, not music classes. You got to take a writing class, so you got to take some kind of, learn about bugs, or, I had a number theory class in my undergraduate, and it was like, sometimes I actually learned that, I learned this the wrong way. I learned this by doing it completely wrong. But one of the most important skills that you can have as someone, especially if you're trying to be an educator or someone who wants to make money, is you got to be able to write. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to write. Like, just write things that are clear, make sense, and someone can look at it who's on a committee and say, okay, this is clear. They're trying to do this with this, and they need this for this. Because Alton and I learned the hard way that who here has heard of the term grant? A grant, yeah? I'm sure you all have seen it. For me, I thought it was like a mythical creature, a grant. Like, I know a Grant. Yeah, he plays tenor saxophone. I know Grant. But the grant is really nowadays like a big key to getting a lot of money to do the stuff that you want to do as a performer, is you have to be able to write grants. And being able to do that starts with being able to write. So use the academic classes if you have to write essays. Use it, just think about, I would try to remind myself, like, okay, so if I learn how to write this essay perfectly, then I could just use this and just use this as a template to make something else that I really am going to use it for. So
on the same note of writing, so how many of you have an email account that you have to like talk to people through, whether it be for school or whatever? Great. I do too. Now, let's talk about structuring an email. This is something that really is not talked about in school.
Never.
And normally you get burned for it, because I got burned for it multiple times.
I got burned for
Not once, multiple, right? So writing an email, this correlates exactly with your REHE 101, Rhetoric Class 101. Whenever you're writing an email to, like, let's say you want to book your band. Why? Because you want to play music for a live audience. And that doesn't have to be jazz. That can be chamber music. That can be for an Easter gig. Everybody knows people pay out the wazoo for Easter.
That's right.
So you want to inquire about a performance opportunity, correct? Hey, comma, that is not the correct way to even approach that. But how would you know that? You only learn that by like learning how to address people with proper verbiage, punctuation, and whatnot. Right. And so like it all flows into just our main message of learning how to get the most out of something that might be annoying at a certain point in time.
Yeah. So the next thing I want to talk about is resources. And this is a part that I'm a nerd. I like tech stuff. I like gadgets. I like all that. I'm always trying to just like get the newest thing. We got a rental for this car, and I was just sitting around in the options menu like, that's how much of a nerd I am. So, but we want to talk about resources because it's something that a lot of people miss out on with the school. So there's basically like 4 main things with it. There's tools, services, and it's 3 things, sorry. Tools, services, and teachers for resources. So talking about tools, I'm almost positive that every school has access to some sort of recording equipment, video equipment, rehearsal spaces and performance spaces, and education discounts. Who here has ever heard of an education discount? This is something that I encourage any student to capitalize on. If you have an email that ends with .edu or whatever school you go to, you can use your education email to get really good discounts on things that you need, like Finale. If you're an education student, Finale is $100, which is
$500.
It's usually $500. So it's a $100. Sibelius, I think, is $200. I think you can get, and then they have this thing on it. Who here has a Mac, Apple computer, or access to an Apple computer? So they have this thing called the Apple Education Bundle that I didn't even know about. Alton actually showed it to me. It's $200.
Yes.
It's $200, and I know that's a lot of money. But you get Logic Pro. You get, what is it?
So you get Logic Pro, Final Cut,
you get
10 or X.
Main Stage. Main Stage, which
compressor.
And you get all the encoding and compression software that you need for all that. That's like, $700 or $800. And we're not sponsored by Apple. So we're just saying that because like we were students, and I bought Logic, and then I saw that and I was like, I'm an idiot. I was like, I could have gotten all of it for the same price.
So how does that relate to being a trombone player? Here's how. How many of you make videos for ITF or recordings for ATW?
Or just competitions. Yeah?
Auditions
for school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot. So like now with ITF, I believe almost every single competition, with maybe the exception of ensemble, with the exception of ensemble competitions, you need a video, right? So I don't have my phone on me. You have your phone?
Yeah.
So that right there is great for videos, and here's why. You can put it to 4K at like 60 frames per second, and it looks amazing. Almost everybody has access to a perfect video camera now with their phone. Now the other side of that, well, let's talk about equipment with student discounts. So did you know that Guitar Center, I believe they have education discounts, because I think that's how I got my mic. And so how many of you are like hip to, I guess, like recording stuff, like whether it be microphones or like Zooms or whatever, right? So generally, this is not a defiant statement. Generally, you would want to use a ribbon mic, right? Depending on your preference. But I normally use ribbon mics, and those can be extremely expensive. But at Guitar Center, I was able to buy a pretty, I guess, our friend who's like a recording engineer said it's a great mic, for like just doing your own thing. And I bought it for $121 with my education discount, and then I bought
$400 or $500 microphone.
Mm-hmm. And then a Focusrite, which is like an audio interface. They have special discounts for educators and students. So instead of spending probably $800 that I should have spent, I spent, I think in total $260 for now a great microphone and an audio interface. And now I already have Logic Pro and all that stuff. So now whenever it comes time for me to make a recording for grad school or maybe a competition, now I have access to great stuff instead of using a iPhone recording.
And the nice thing is that even as a student, a lot of times you won't even need to purchase that equipment for a while because the school has it for you and it's available.
Exactly.
So that's why we're talking about resources and tools, is because, I went to a school, I found this out my last semester of my last year, but I didn't know this, but I could walk into my library, this is my undergrad, and I could borrow a 4K, 120 frames video camera. I just showed them my ID card, they check it out to me, and I could have it for like a week. I was like, that's like a $3,000-$4,000 camera. So just, the point here is it's a call to action. We want you to just take a second, look at your resources, look at what's available. Think about your rehearsal spaces. How much would it cost to rent out one of the rehearsal spaces at your school if you weren't a student? Probably a lot. I tried to rent a rehearsal space because I played in like this little indie rock band. And they were like, oh, well, if this isn't for like an academic thing, or you're not trying to do it for your own personal development as a trombone major, it's like $600 an hour. I was like, really? Oh, no. So, just the point is keep a lookout for your resources. So, and then the last part of resources, we kind of covered services, because you can hire people at your school, or you can get your friends who are audio production majors to record you or give you video. But the last part is, one of the incredible resources that we all have are teachers. Who here has teachers at your school?
Or mentors.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm looking at this because the terminology I think is kind of important.
Or supervisors.
So, if you look, the point says, find out what each faculty member's X factor is. Who's heard of X Factor? Yeah?
Not the TV show.
X Factor is like, no, I'm talking about the TV show.
Oh,
yeah. So the X Factor, like, the show is based off of, everyone has like, you can sing amazing, you can dance, you can do all this stuff, but you have to have like that little special something, they call that the X Factor. And every teacher at your institution, I guarantee you, has some kind of X Factor. And so you got to find it out. We stole this terminology from really amazing world-class trumpet player named Frank Green. And his term is called, those who have proven to know. And the term refers to someone who is currently succeeding in the field or in the aspect that you're trying to find out information for. So, say I wanted to learn about organizing a trombone festival. Who would I contact? Right here, because they run an amazing festival. Makes sense, they have proven that they know what they're doing. If I want to learn how to successfully win a job with the Boston Symphony, who would I call? Mr. James Markey. Of course, because he is the current bass trombonist with the Boston Symphony. So look and find out what your teacher's X factor is. There's something that they're really good at, and they're just waiting for you to ask them to tell you about it. They're just waiting.
Now, on the other side of that, so as Victor mentioned before, we studied with Michael Dees. Those of you who know Michael Dees, he's one of the world's leading jazz trombonists. He's been on numerous records and whatever. So we wanted to make a record. So we were like, well, who should we ask? Well, we knew who to ask already. But we were like, wow, well, maybe we should ask the person who's been on over 200 records and has like 12 records of his own. So we applied the power to...
those who have TPK.
Yeah,
those
TPK.
who have proven to know.
Yeah,
proven
TPK.
to know. Words are hard.
And so we asked. And then we were able to come out with, I would like to say, a fantastic product that we're really happy with. And it was because we asked people who have been excellent in that field. So just trying to talk to you all about that X factor and like how to use it both for your benefit and for everybody else's, and the music's benefit, which is at the end of the day what everybody wants to do, is be a great musician and serve the music correctly, right?
You attend an institution because you know that this place is well known and they have a reputation of producing students of high quality in whatever field you're attending. So that's just like one of the points of our success. And the third point that we want to talk about is fourth point is community. So this is where the roast comes in. Who's ever here seen Comedy Central, the roast of? Yeah, it's like kind of an early 2000s thing. I don't think it's still going on though. But this is where the roast comes in. If you look in all bold, it says, your classmates are your greatest assets. Ask for feedback from trusted colleagues. You have sparring partners with at your institution at all times that probably want information just as badly as you do. So we just highly encourage, because they want you to succeed. Chances are they're also looking for feedback. And so the point is that you want to establish a trustful relationship with them. And we do that through the roast. It's just like you get comfortable making jokes and just blasting through that like uncomfortable wall of like, I don't know what they think about my playing, but I also want to know how to get better. So it says, get your ego out of the way and get roasted by your friends.
So let's delve into that. So as I kind of started this masterclass off, or I should say clinic, started like the clinic off with, you have the option to let those who you want to in this circle. So let's say like you want, okay, obviously your mentor is going to give you some kind of critique and your teacher. But you have the power to like choose, who else you like want in there, right? So normally you would go after somebody who's, slightly above that, like you think you want to like start sounding like, or whatever, right? So how do you like engage with that? So Chris and I, it's funny, like we're people watchers as well. So like we like studying like like what's going on, like how can we like talk to this person correctly, because that's important too. Because if you like don't talk to somebody correctly, the outcome could be bad. So the first thing as a trombonist that we both know is you can always just ask, man, what mouthpiece are you playing on?
People love to talk about their equipment.
All the time.
That's like a media icebreaker for me. Every gig I'm on, if I've never met the person, I don't know who they are, they could be playing the most standard, they'd be playing a 3-beat that they got yesterday, and you've seen, that's like really, really standard equipment. You sit down, wow, what kind of horn are you playing? That was pretty cool, And as soon, this conversation has started. You've taken off, you're invested in them, they like you. Cool.
Exactly. So, whenever I met Chris, we actually met at like the local jam session that happens every Tuesday. And I saw his bass trombone, and I knew what it was, but I was like, well, he sounds like really, really, really good. So let me ask him, like, what equipment did he play on, or something. It was one of those questions, like, man, like, what kind of valves are those? And it wasn't that horn at the time. It was actually a can stool. He actually got that one like last year. But anyways, I digress. Anyways, though, so I asked him, I was like, like, what are you playing on, blah, blah, blah. And then, it got to the point of like, well, how does your horn play? Oh, man, you sound great on it. Like, well, what did you think about like what did you think about like what I played? And we eventually got to that comfortability factor of like being able to be both honest with critique that wasn't meant to hurt each other. It was just more about helping each other get better. Because whenever you're in school, I'm pretty sure this is everybody's objective. The main objective is to get better, to be the best player, person, musician, educator, what have you, that you can be. And so why would you avoid going down the alley, or why would you like try to go around that objective whenever you can just go straight through and ask, what do you think about what I just played? And man, whenever I was probably 18, I was always in people's faces like asking like, well, what can I do better? Like, what do you think? And it's really important to like also desensitize yourself to so much critique, because sometimes a lot of critique can be a lot. But whenever you're constantly asking people, now you're having different opinions, and now you have a chance for refinement. And so I want everybody to like think about this quote that John Whitman told me, and this quote just has struck a chord with me. Critique is a chance for refinement. And I don't think people think about that enough. I think sometimes we let our egos get in the way. It's like, oh, well, this person's just trying to come after me. And so what happens if they are? Now you at least have a chance to like fix something at times, And normally they're probably not coming for you. They're just looking out for your best interest. Maybe their delivery was different, but it's still a valid critique at times, right? So just think about that. Critique is a chance for refinement.
Another way to access the community is by not using words, but using your instruments, make your own band. And this is how Alton and I really got our start with our ensemble, is that we used our jazz combo. Okay, so here plays classical music. Who here plays jazz music?
And
who here plays both? Yeah?
And who here just plays music?
Who here just plays music? Music is music, is music, is music. Yeah, so use your educational experience as an opportunity to make your own ensembles and get your own gigs with that ensemble. I did my undergraduate in classical tenor trombone, and I did my master's in jazz bass trombone. Talk about the most backwards way you could have done it. Right? Who gets a degree in jazz bass trombone? So, the point here is being like, I just put here, learn and record the music that you write for your assignments, for your ensemble rehearsals, for everything. And then you can use those to pitch for like gigs. You have a brass quintet, you have a trombone quartet. You use that as an opportunity. Be like, send some emails out to churches. Be like, hey, Easter's coming up. I noticed that you guys didn't have any like special music at your Easter last year. We'd love to come play. Here's a video of us playing "Achieved Is a Glorious Work," and it sounds like smoking.
Because you used your mic.
Because you use your mics, you practice, you rehearse while you're in school. You use those skills that you get in school in real time. So a little bit of like, I guess, that actually happened on that subject. So how many of you were here? I think it was yesterday or maybe the day before, whenever the Illinois Urbana-Champaign Jazz Trombone Ensemble, the winners, I believe, of this year's ATW Jazz Trombone Competition. How many of you saw it? If he's watching, what's up? Yeah.
So they actually had a tour that led them up to here. And so here's probably the preface that they used. Hey, we're on the way to American Trombone Workshop. We're coming from Urbana-Champaign, and it's in Indiana.
Illinois.
No, it's Illinois. Okay,
yeah.
There we go. They all blend in. I'm from Texas. So. Anyways, so they're coming from there. And I believe they probably drove here. So they were able to create, I guess you could call it a mini tour, right? Under the preface, like, yeah, we're going to this gig here in Washington D.C. as the winners. And now we have a video that we made for the ATW competition or the recording, whatever it is. Would you be interested in having us? And I believe they had like 2 or 3 stops come along the way. I don't know if they were like at schools or venues, I forget. But the fact of the matter is, they were able to create a performance schedule now with the investment that they made with that group. Because that's a class. Jazz Trombone Ensemble is a class. But now they're playing on the way to Washington D.C. That's really cool. And now you're also getting stage time as well as band leader skills and whatever else. But like we don't think about those things at times because it's more like, oh, we're just going to this competition. Well, it can be a lot more than that. You can now get some experience with like talking on the stage, right? And I know for me, I have a lot of trouble with that, like how I just did right there because I stuttered. Anyways, but it's important to expose yourself to those situations that you might not be comfortable in and take advantage of those investments that you're making, such as making a recording, going on tour, and playing at ATW, right?
Yeah. One thing I really want to stress too about this is that the beautiful thing about being a student in an institution is just that you have a opportunity to make a mistake without consequence. It's really your opportunity to really get it wrong, to have someone be like, okay, sit down. This is what you did. It's cool, don't do it next time. But if you did that in the real world, it'll be a bad thing. So use it and the way you do that is just by trying things. That's really where I learned the majority of my 4 skills that I have right now. One being tying my shoes. So
yeah. So, and I guess to put that in another kind of sense is, you have a combo. You can bring in these charts. Let's say one of them just does not go very well. That's cool. If you do that on a gig and it's like not your gig, you might get fired. Now that's money out of your pocket.
Yeah.
So really take that investment as serious as you can with these classes because they're literally laboratories for you. You can do anything in them while in school and come out with either a great product or stuff you might need to refine some more. But once you're out of school, like for good, obviously not everybody is going to be as harsh about, I grew up in the school of life or whatever, but there are people like that, and it's important for you to take it serious while in school so that way you have that opportunity to mess up without consequence.
Yeah. Another thing too that's really amazing about the community is that it's a point on the paper, but I didn't mention it, but most people, and this is kind of the sad truth, is that when you get into real life, everybody is just scrambling, running around like a chicken with their head cut off because they're just trying to make sure that they're financially stable, they're taking care of their family, they're all trying to, make sure that they have food in their stomach and then a roof over their head. And so, you will find people that can help you, obviously, and you will find people that help you and mentor you. But the majority of people, unfortunately, won't have the time or willpower to be able to help you unless you're in school with them. Because when you're in school with them, you're just playing. You're working. You have the same classes with all of them. So just use this opportunity for critique and refinement with people who have time and willpower to help you out.
So some other tools, we already kind of talked about them. Audio interfaces, mics, how do I know what to get? I'm sure you can find a live recording sound engineer from like a venue, or maybe you're like playing a corporate gig and you're talking to like the sound engineer. You can always ask because people love talking about what they like.
That's right.
I love talking about what I like, and that's what human nature is, or as Kevin Malone says, human natural.
So it's and use that as also an opportunity to invest in those who have proven to know. Pick someone who you like their sound. I would just highly discourage you to go to just any random Tom at Guitar Center and ask them. Go to someone who actually works with audio and they've proven that they make music and you like how it sounds, and just ask them, hey, what's a pretty good mic I can get for like $200,
So, and then now the last couple sentences. So, other skills you might want so that way you can make a little bit extra money while in college. Versatility. How many of you play exclusively one style of music every single day and will never play any other kind of style of music again because that is exactly what you're going to do every single day of your life? Okay, so everybody at some point is going to play third bone in a big band. Maybe you might play second bone in a salsa band. Or trombone for, there's this band called the Royal Dudes, which is a national thing. It's a corporate event band. Or, maybe you get the call to play in a pit orchestra with Hugh Jackman. Or who did you play with in Grand Rapids?
Oh, it was Sarah McLachlan.
You never know what you're going to get.
From the ASPCA.
Exactly, just because you have a degree in classical tenor trombone performance doesn't mean you are not subjected to other styles of music. So it's important that you not only listen to experts in the field that you love and you're studying, but you're also listening to other people who are experts in their respective genre fields. So, for example, I grew up in Texas, and I lived next to Fort Hood, which is an Army base down there. And, the scene there is a lot of salsa music, and I absolutely fell in love with that. But the only reason I knew about that was because I was exposed to it, and I actively sought after, and I actively was going after it because I just loved the sound of I guess not brash, but very confident trombone playing, right? And because of that, I fell in love with like another genre because I also loved, you know, listening to the classics, you know, Joe Leslie, Christian Lundberg. But man, there's something about Jimmy Bosch and Willie Colon and Barry Rogers and sometimes salsa trombone, split tone. Like, there's something about that's very powerful. But I have a degree in, you know, classical whatever. That's okay because that's only going to help inform your trombone playing whenever you play in other genres, thus making you versatile by listening to other trombonists so that way you can replicate that. And I guess kind of finishing up on that point, expose yourself to as many musical genres as you can because once again, that's just going to help you play more, it's going to put you in different situations, and it's going to help with your sight reading because I can't tell you how many times I've played on a corporate band and they're like, well, we only have a B-flat trumpet part. Luckily, I read tenor clef.
That's right.
Right? So it's just really important to understand the style. Because one day you're going to get that call.
Another small thing that I want to mention about versatility, and it literally just escaped my brain, is that it's really important to just listen to the music. It's just like you can get an idea of what's going on with it. I think that's like really the first step. Because to be honest, I had never actually listened to salsa music until maybe 2 years ago. Except for like, you know, you go to like a really cheesy Mexican restaurant, and that's not salsa music they're playing, like, you know, Tejano music or something like that.
That's completely different.
Yeah, so just you know, look up Spotify playlists on all these different genres of music that you know trombones are in, and just listen to it. So last 2 points: teaching chops and performing chops. They are both exclusive and inclusive. Just because you can play doesn't necessarily mean you can teach, and just because you can teach doesn't necessarily mean you can play. Right? Those two are exclusive in that fact, but they also inform one another. Okay? So, for example, how many of you will have to take a pedagogy class at some point? You know, for those of you in college, I'm sure your hands are going to have to go up with that. But you're going to have to learn how to fix mistakes with maybe beginners that you're going to be teaching. So, it's really important that you understand your process and the other possibilities of other students' processes, because not everybody's going to play like you. You're not going to play like everybody else, and you're always going to find one student that's just either an exception to the rule or they just like don't want to practice, so you have to like figure that out too, right? But I'm an excellent performer. Well, that's great. But you also have to have patience as a beginning teacher, because sometimes just getting that first buzz of F and B flat won't happen for months. Yeah.
And like as a performer, that might drive you crazy because you work on it for so long, whatever, right? But not everybody's built the same way, which is why we're all unique.
Yeah. Another really, really important point about that I think has helped me a lot personally, and I know it's helped Alton. It's what's got me it got me a teaching assistantship, it got me everything. It is just being a listener. So we're sitting up here just blabbing at you the whole time. It's kind of making me uncomfortable because I'm used to like just being the person that listens and listens and listens all the time. But if you try and actively be the person who is like asking someone else about their life, listening, absorbing information, and just being someone who's a listener, people love listeners because everybody likes to talk about themselves. Everybody likes to, you know, just be a part of something, and they like to have someone that they can connect with, and really being a listener. Within the music, being someone who listens in your ensembles, someone who listens to your teachers, someone who listens to your friend telling you that note was like ridiculously out of tune, and you really need to fix that. Like for some reason, high F is just terrible all the time.
The roast.
Yeah, so just being a listener, someone who listens, and not just like listens and hears it, listens and evaluates what they're saying.
So the last couple minutes, I think we're also going to play like a blues at the very end.
Yeah, sure.
But the very last point, professional etiquette on and off the gig. So we live in an age where everything is on social media. I posted the link to this like 10 minutes beforehand because I want people to watch it. So if you're watching it, thank you. But social media, I'm just going to hit a little bit on this. It's very relevant in today's world, especially as a performer and as a student. And that is also considered professional etiquette on a gig. Because here's like, I guess, the real worldness of this. Whenever I applied for my job as an adjunct professor, my Facebook got looked up. And I'm really glad I didn't have anything that was not musical on there. You know, and I'm not saying that has to be everybody's social media, but just remember, now that you're putting everything in writing or like posting pictures or whatever, it's important for you to understand that no matter what your intention is, it matters how people perceive you. And you really can't do anything but be as transparent as possible. So whenever you go to my Facebook or my Instagram, you're going to see 3 to 4 things. Our record, my dog, my wife and I, and gigs. That's about it. You're not going to find really much else. So, I just want to say, be as transparent as possible with today's world of social media, because some people might not want to hire you for certain things that you might post. Just something to consider. Cool. We're going to play a little blues.
Yeah. Thank you again for having us. It's been a blast. Hope that helps a little bit. Yeah. you have any questions.